So now we have a successfully installed Vite React project. I want to walk you through what kind of folders, files, and code we have in this project. First of all, there's a Node modules folder where all the dependencies that your project is using is here. And then you have a public folder where it only has this Vite logo in there. Thirdly, there's a source file. Under the source file, you see an asset file with a React logo. Then you see an app.css, app.jsx, index.css, main.jsx files, right? Then you'll see gitignore, eslint, index.html, package.json files, a readme file, and a vite config file. So I'd like to start with explaining how all these code come together. Let's look at index.html first. I'd like to draw your attention to line 11, where it has a script that links to main.jsx. JSX is a kind of JavaScript file. Let's go and have a look there. In main.jsx, there's a createRoot method. This createRoot method is from React, and the method takes one argument, which is a DOM element. And in this case, we are taking the DOM element, which is called root. This element with the ID root is in here on line 10. This div with ID root. So all this is saying is that we are going to mount our React project on this DOM element called root. And the render after that means that we're going to render all these React components on this root. So that is all this file means. Next, let's look at app.jsx. This is where the code for the app component is written. Don't worry if you don't know how to write components just yet, because I'm going to explain to you in the upcoming videos. All I want you to know now is that we're exporting this app so that we can import it back in main.jsx and then use it. The remaining files are the CSS files, which I'm sure you're already familiar that these are for the stylings of the website. One point to note is that app.css is for app.jsx, this component, and index.css is for this main.jsx file. Normally, when I use Tailwind, I will import the Tailwind in this index.css file and also do the configuration of the Tailwind CSS here. Next, let's look at the remaining folders and files that are in this project from the top. So Node modules is a folder related to all the dependencies that are for this project. As you can see, this is a huge folder with a lot of subfolders. So when you're sharing this code or committing this code, you will normally delete this node modules folder as long as you include package.json file. In package.json file and also in package.log.json file, what you will find is the versions of the dependencies. So the people who are receiving your code can just type npm install to have the node modules automatically pop up and all the dependencies installed immediately. As for the differences between package.json and package.log.json, package.json is managed by the dev and package.log.json is automatically managed by npm. And package.json Um, it will specify the range acceptable for the versions of the dependencies. And for package lock JSON, it will have the exact version number that this project has resolved to keep a record of it. And in package.json, we can also write scripts to run our program. So that is also one point to note. So that is what node modules is and what package.json is. Next, readme and read config. These are config and readme files. And for slint, this is a tool for formatting the code when you're committing to a larger code base to standardize the code. And git ignore is to tell Git to ignore some files which you don't want to commit to the public repository, right? Because sometimes in your code there will be sensitive information like API keys. You don't want to commit those. So you'll type those file names in this git ignore file. I think that's it. These are the short introduction to all the folders, files, and code that are in by default with the Vite React project. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.